bitches go.
We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Boxing Ego unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Dillian Whyte says that Anthony Joshua, after his 2019 fights, will never be the same fighter. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the super chats, channel donations, the Venmo donations, the Cash App, and the Patreon family. We work and sign up for ESPN Plus below using my link. It does help the channel. Conor McGregor is getting ready to fight against Cowboy Cerrone, the return of McGregor. He also talked about potentially fighting Pacquiao in boxing, wanting to rematch Mayweather, fight a guy like Paulie Malignaggi. I made a video about the Pacquiao situation. Make sure you guys check that out on the channel. And Dillian Whyte, he did an interview exclusive. You see it. Whyte, AJ won't be the same again. This is his theory. Dillian Whyte says Anthony Joshua won't be the same fighter again. Dillian Whyte believes Anthony Joshua always showed signs of, quote, not liking getting hit, and accuses old rival of no longer being aggressive inside the ring. Whyte firstly won an amateur fight between them and Joshua, then avenged it with a knockout victory in brutal British title fight 4 years ago. Whyte firstly won an amateur fight between them. Oh, and Joshua then avenged it. I get it. It looked, that was really weird how they worded it. Joshua won his world heavyweight titles against RUIZ last month, but Whyte insists, quote, Joshua won't be the same fighter after losing the first fight. We've seen this before. Lennox Lewis was an aggressive fighter on the front foot, but after he got knocked out by Hasim Rahman, then he changed his style, Whyte exclusively told Sky Sports. I don't think that's a good example. Like, you know, just knowing history, Rahman was one of Lennox Lewis's last fights of his career, you know. And he only, after that, he fought, I think, Mike Tyson and Vitaly Klitschko. So he was aggressive. He stopped both of them. So I don't know what Dillian Whyte's referring to with that example, but that's just my own cliff note. Quote, people forget Vladimir Klitschko was one of the most aggressive heavyweights for a long time, but he got done by Ross Purity, Corey Saunders, and Lamont Brewster, then changed his style. Joshua will be the same. Tall heavyweights start their career very aggressively, but then even Deontay Wilder, when he was clocked a couple of times by Luis Ortiz, thought, I'm just going to wait. We have seen this time and time again in history, and it's always the same. Whyte insists that Joshua has always shown weaknesses. He said, quote, let's go further back. Carlos Takam, Alexander Povetkin, Joseph Parker. There were signs of caginess and not liking getting hit. Joshua is set to defend his newly reigned titles in a UK homecoming with Kubrat Pulev leading the chase as his opponent. Whyte, meanwhile, is still waiting for his first opportunity at a world title. He has been the, man, they need to stop saying this, man. WBC #1 contender over 800 days, but Wilder is going to fight Fury. Listen, Wilder Fury is a much bigger fight with the British UK fighter. Deal with it. This was something that required planning. More than one network, ESPN and Fox joining forces. This is bigger for boxing. Nobody's worried about Dillian Whyte versus, I'm getting sick of this counting stuff. Like, if the WBC told Dillian Whyte he's not fighting Wilder in 2020, before 2020, they said this in 2019, why are they still counting? You know, these are just some side notes because I'm reading this as I go. With another fight between them penciled in for later this year. Again, everybody knows there's supposed to be a second and third fight with Wilder and Fury, so they're potentially booked up the back half of a trilogy. So I don't understand why people are still why would you keep counting? Oh, 1,000 days now. 1,200. Why are you counting? Like, that's really weird. UK media got to do better, bro. It's like they keep advocating this same token talking points from Dillian Whyte and Eddie Hearn, who started this. First it was 500 days. It's supposed to, like, I guess, make people feel sorry for Dillian Whyte and have empathy and sympathy. Oh, he's been waiting. I mean, this is boxing. Jorge Sebastian Hyland was supposed to fight Gennady Golovkin. Guess what? He kept waiting. Cotto was supposed to fight Golovkin. Sergio Martinez was supposed to fight Golovkin. Canelo was supposed to fight Golovkin. That was the mandatory at a point, and these guys waited. The fights didn't happen when they want. This is boxing. Jermall Charlo is the mandatory for Golovkin and Canelo. Still ain't got either one. Why we going to feel this pity and sorry for Dillian Whyte? And this just seems to be an ongoing thing. You look at the number one mandatory for Lomachenko was Devin Haney recently. Guess what? He got looked over by Luke Campbell. Top rank, pulls some strings, boom, boom, boom. Then Lomachenko, who already had belts, who's already been a champion in multiple divisions, he took the opportunity from that would have probably went to Luke Campbell versus Devin Haney, being a champion and getting the opportunity. So this is life. This is boxing. White's best chance of a world title could happen against Joshua, and insists he would accept the chance. Quote, of course. AJ says a lot of things. Listen, if he wants to fight me, the fight can happen. I'm here. I'm ready to fight. If he wants to fight me, the fight can happen. He's a good fighter and a good champion, but he talks a lot of rubbish most of the time. Him, Wilder, Fury, they all talk the same rubbish. He says one thing and then he backtracks and says another. And that's true. At least I'm consistent with what I say and do what I say. 1 minute he says I'm going to spar with Tyson Fury, and the next minute he says, if it works in my schedule. When Fury said, yes, if it works in my schedule. He just talks rubbish, man. White believes the Ruiz Jr. demonstrated the blueprint on how to defeat Joshua and warned he could do the same. I would come out and set about him, he said about facing Joshua again. The first time we fought, we were amateurs. The second time, my then trainer, Jonathan Banks, told me, box him, stretch him out, let him gas. That was the wrong strategy. Now I look back. I should have been more aggressive in the early rounds because while I was boxing, he was being aggressive. Then I got tired, so I should have just gone for him. If I fought him again, I would press him. Wilder and Russian contender Povetkin have expressed interest in fighting each other next. Now, I actually agree with a lot of what Dillian Whyte is saying, except for some of his examples. Like when he's saying that Wilder got hit by Luis Ortiz and, I guess somehow is not aggressive. I don't see that at all. I didn't see in the first Wilder Ortiz fight, in the second Wilder Ortiz fight. Listen, boxing in a rematch is all about adjustments. I think Wilder's game plan was to keep the right hand concealed because he was in there with someone who's technically better than him, a southpaw, a guy who got 11 rounds to look at him. And he didn't want to, everyone knows and fears the Wilder right hand. So he had to get clever with it, and he didn't want to keep showing it. And, he showed little glimpses of it. That's it. I don't think it was because, Ortiz hurt him in the first fight or anything. So I don't agree with that example. The other example about Lennox Lewis, that didn't make sense. As I mentioned earlier, Lennox Lewis got knocked out in a competitive fight in the first fight by Hasim Rahman with one shot. Couldn't get up, beat the count, boom, boom, boom. Then he came back and knocked Hasim Rahman out. So he was aggressive there, right? He was the same fighter. He knocked out Mike Tyson. He knocked out Vitaly Klitschko. So I never seen him lose aggression. Klitschko, that one's pretty accurate. I don't think Klitschko was overly aggressive though. I think he was maybe more aggressive. And then after he got knocked out by Corey Saunders, Lamont Brewster and stuff like that, he learned to use his height better and jab, just simple modifications to extend your career really, and to learn from maybe a mistake earlier or what got you knocked out. So I agree with some of the stuff he's saying, not some of the examples, but actually when it comes to the man on the screen, Anthony Joshua, I do agree because I've seen this and I said this, and this is so funny when it comes to new media. This is why new media, I told you, we control the narrative. The new media movement is just so infectious because the stuff makes so much sense. And Dillian Whyte, you know, he's a fighter. So, you know, and this is one of his enemies, Anthony Joshua or whatever. And he's just peeping Joshua's progression. I keep telling you, Joshua, I don't think I could see him losing again. If given the right opponent, I see him losing again. Because I noticed little, like Dillian Whyte saying, little chinks in the armor, little weaknesses that I've always known. And you just keep chipping at the windshield. Now, that windshield came crashing down in the first RUIZ fight. Now, it didn't in the second fight, but again, you can say what you want. I think a lot of that blame goes to RUIZ. I don't think Joshua just came out. I mean, I'm not trying to take anything away from him. He came out and did what he had to do. He had a strategy and he came in shape. I can't blame him for that. But RUIZ, I can blame because he didn't do himself any favors. He came out of shape and looking out of whack and body looking whopped and stuff with no game plan of why you added the weight. I mean, it's just, that's not pro boxing. It's really not professional behavior to, just go out there with no game plan and don't listen to the requests and bequests of your trainer and dad, and like just go rogue and think Joshua's just, think it's sweet and you're just going to beat him again because you already beat. I mean, that's just, you got to have a game plan. This is still elite boxing. So again, I think Joshua's a good fighter, but I agree with what Whyte's saying regarding him particularly. He says, look, he's always showed that weakness. Let's go further back. Carlos Takam, Povetkin, and Joseph Parker. There were signs of caginess and not liking getting hit. And I've said the same thing. Joshua, all those rumors we've heard about Daniel Dubois sparring, David Price, and, these various things, Joey DeVecco, I really think those are true. And I think Joshua freezes up when he gets hit. The RUIZ fight really put it all on full display. The Klitschko was an entrance. It was like a prequel. It wasn't the actual, movie. It was the one before. It was the prequel to introduce you to, at a high level, Joshua at his best, undefeated, and he dealt with some adversity. And another prequel before that would be the Dillian Whyte fight, because Dillian Whyte caught Joshua and he froze up like, almost like a robot, like he was malfunctioning or something. So I really do have doubts that Joshua will be the same fighter, and he's manipulated his body, and I think that also is going to potentially hurt Joshua's style, because now he's in between almost two worlds, and I don't know if he's really going to have the same identity, the same DNA as a fighter. Do you get what I'm saying? Because when he came in the game, he was billed as like this bodybuilding behemoth and knockout artist, and he looked the part and and he was in shape and looked like Action Jackson, AJ, right? And over time we've seen he's you can hurt him and stuff like that, and then it crescendoed to the Andy Ruiz fight where we seen a totally bad performance of Joshua's, and everything was just not clicking for him. He walked out, looked spaced out and beady-eyed. We heard bad rumors about the camp, which he denies. Oh, no, I had no anxiety. You guys know me, which he later just did an interview with Sky Sports saying he does deal with anxiety and thinks on the ring walk, oh, what would I do? What would people do if I just turned around and said, I can't do this? So, this is what I've said, and Dillian Whyte's now saying it. Joshua is far too inconsistent. He lies, He's like trying to protect this image or whatever, and he's just constantly changing what he says, and that makes it looks like there's no way it's just not believable. Like, even this picture just doesn't look real. This doesn't look like it looks like we're all in a microwave looking at him. Like, that's what the food in the microwave sees. It's just weird pictures. He's just kind of almost a peculiar individual who's torn. But back to the boxing stuff. The boxing thing, I look at it like this, is he's in between two worlds. When he came out, he was in shape, buff, Mr. Olympia, and he was pulverizing guys. Eddie Hearn kind of used that. Oh, he's a gold medalist, and look at what he looks like. He's a physical specimen, and guess what? He'll knock you out too. But then over time, we see guys like Joseph Parker go the distance. We see Wilder, pull his card, and he really doesn't do anything. And, that was a bad look, how Wilder kept smoking him out, and, he turned down $50 million and all this stuff, and ultimately didn't fight him. We've seen him vulnerable versus multiple fighters, Dillian Whyte, Povetkin, Carlos Takam. He got headbutted or punched or something, and he seemed really bothered by it, and then now he was the running Joshua, running man style, where he was just like box, but not comfortable in his own skin and have enough of identity like a pure boxer. Like, listen, I have no problem with the boxing style, but Joshua's version, it was a poor man's boxing. Tyson Fury boxes, it looks fluid. Guys like Caleb Plant, he's moving, and you could tell Devin Haney, like, they know what they want to do. Obviously, Floyd Mayweather, right? Pernell Whitaker, there's no second guessing. It's almost flawless, like they're not even thinking about it. Joshua didn't look like that to me. Tyson Fury also said it. He did what he had to do, but it just wasn't like a super impressive boxing exhibition. I've been more impressed with Errol Spence's 2019 victories, and I've said this for the longest. Joshua, since the Klitschko fight, that seems like the first fight that would have taught him the most. And since that fight, he has regressed as a champion. His performances against lesser people than Klitschko have actually seemed worse. Like, Andy Ruiz is a 6'2", 6'1" heavyweight who had 5 weeks to train, and you lose to him. And he got short arms, way shorter than Klitschko. Hadn't been a champion like Klitschko, lost when he fought Joseph Parker, a guy you beat. The Joseph Parker performance for AJ, the Povetkin was a struggle for the first rounds. We've really seen Joshua regress. So, I'm not trying to put bad juju on him or whatever. This is just my honest opinion. I don't think Joshua is going to be the same fighter. And another reason why I don't think he's going to be the same fighter is because I don't think other fighters are going to treat him like the same fighter. That's important. Listen again. I don't think Joshua is going to be the same fighter because other fighters aren't going to treat him like the same fighter. If you're a professional fighter, how are you going to treat Joshua like the 14-0 Joshua who was running through everybody, or the one that knocked out Charles Martin and pulverized Eric Molina, because now it looks like he's manipulating his weight, getting smaller. He's trying to do more of a box. We've heard the war stories. We've seen him hurt. We've seen him drop 4 times. We've seen him dropped, in 2 fights, he got dropped 5 times. We've seen him beat Ruiz, but not really so impressively. It was just, bare bones minimum to get your belts back. So I don't think guys like, you think if Wilder beats Fury, knocks him out, and then let's say Fury says, I'm retiring, and then Wilder started pursuing Joshua, do you think he would have fear knowing that he just beat Luis Ortiz twice and then he beat Fury? You know what I'm saying? You think he's going to fear Joshua? I'm not saying he can chump him and not take him serious or something, but it's just the jury's out. The verdict's out, I believe. And I don't even know if Joshua knows who he is as a fighter right now. Is he going to be, what body, like his next fight is going to be tailing, like Kubrat Pulev or whoever it is, because I think an able-bodied person, Andy Ruiz just didn't do himself any services. He just did himself a disservice, but I think an able-bodied, in-shape person with some power, with the right game plan, they're going to give Joshua his issue, if not a loss. I really believe that. Because, like I said, what body type do you go? Do you go back to the bulked out Joshua who's weighing 258 and 260 or whatever he was weighing? Or do you go back to the more lean and I'm going to try to box? Because, again, that worked for Andy Ruiz, who didn't come prepared to fight because he was out of shape and he wasn't really even throwing punches. You know, he was just eating punches and trying to come forward and really couldn't get off the. That's not going to be everyone's issue. You know, not everyone's going to go through that and, you know, not come to fight or come out of shape. And most of the people aren't going to be plagued by that Buster Douglas curse. Because most people, Andy Ruiz got the titles in the first fight and then, you know, got too good for him or whatever. But Kubrat Pulev don't have the titles. He lost to Klitschko, you know, so he might be hungry. Dillian Whyte, he ain't got a title shot yet. Because when he fought Joshua the first time, Joshua wasn't a champion. So he's going to be hungry. Wilder, if he beats Fury, you know he's going to be hungry because he's been wanting to fight Joshua. So, you know, I just think it's going to be an uphill battle. I don't see Joshua getting back to the image that he had. Once you have an aura that gets removed, it's kind of hard. It's just like, you know, like Suge Knight in the 90s, nobody wanted to mess with Suge Knight. Nobody. You know, it is what it is. Nobody wanted, with Death Row days, nobody was messing with him because of all the stories and stuff like that. But it wasn't until way after that, after Tupac died and Biggie died and, you know, Death Row had collapsed, Suge went to jail, got out. Then Suge got knocked out by a barber at a club or something like that. But nobody was even trying Suge throughout the 90s, you know. But once that aura is stripped away and people don't look at it like they look at you as more human, it's just like the Rocky IV movie with the Russian Ivan Drago. I must break you. You will lose. You know, he was out of this world, strong and, you know, almost like a robot until Rocky hit him and they got hyped. He's cut. He's cut. He's like a piece of iron. You know what I'm saying? It was like a revelation and everyone would rejoice like, oh, see, you can't beat this guy. What do you mean he cut? You know, and Stallone started putting some punches together because he experienced that and seen blood. Like, okay, he can leak. He is a regular man like me, you know? And that's what happens. You know, we've seen it with Mike Tyson. I believe we're seeing it right now with Gennady Golovkin. You know, a couple of years ago, 5 years ago, not everyone necessarily wanted to fight Golovkin, or you knew you had to be on your P's and Q's. But after the Derevyanchenko fight and Canelo fights and Jacobs fights and even Kell Brook, you know, I think people are going to approach the Golovkin fight like, okay, he's beatable. You think Charlo's going to go in super scared? Why? Why would he? You know, and I think the same goes for Joshua. And that's kind of what Dillian Whyte's saying. That's my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think. If you love what I'm doing, smash the like button. We Pat coming to you live. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.